So the game starts to get interesting, and I need to wrap this up. The game gets real interesting when we get into Connect. So ignore the current Connect that you use. Okay, just ignore that. That's nothing compared to what we're building. So if you think about LinkedIn and Facebook and a little bit of Slack had a baby.
And they sent it to real estate school.
And they sent it to real estate school. That's what we're building for you, okay? You got a taste of what we can build and rapidly build on this platform when we introduced our referral program, right? And the interesting you didn't know is we built that half-assed.
Built that from the ideation to launching it was about 90 days. And what we've done, so take one step back. Amazon is not Amazon because they were brilliant day one. They're Amazon because they were able to pivot. And there's a really interesting use case. So when we all think of the one-click checkout, we all think of Amazon. But the truth was, Amazon and eBay were competing it out. They were battling it out. And eBay had this great idea. Let's go create the easier checkout process. Let's do a deal with PayPal and do the one-click checkout on eBay. Amazon was able to replicate that in less than 60 days, put it on their site, and that started this platform war. But PayPal owned the checkout, not eBay, and so Amazon can move faster than eBay, and the rest is history. Now, Amazon is what we think of the one-click checkout. Same with Netflix. Hulu comes out with consumers like the product better, it had more content, but they don't really disrupt Netflix, and it's because every time they did something amazing, Netflix would just copy them. So that 2-year journey that we've been building, we were building a platform, and we wanted something that no matter what anyone else did, we could copy them in 60 to 90 days.
Yep.
And so we started testing that in November of last year. And in a lab, we said, let's do referrals. Relatively complex. You have agents, you have people, you need maps, you need production data, you need migration maps, like all those things. So great, well, let's see if we can do this, if we can take an idea, push it out there, and launch it in 90 days, and we did. And then we've continued to iterate on top of that. Same thing with most of the Kelly skills that come out. That's why they're rough, is because we're testing how fast we can go from idea down to release, and we'll talk a little bit more of that in a little bit.
Yeah. So just think, so here's the fun thing. So in the first quarter of next year, Stacia and her team at KWU is building out our live streaming platform. So essentially, our plan is in the first quarter of next year, 100% of all agent training will be live streamed from Austin, Texas. Okay, and that's a cool thing. No, that's worthy of more than that, but trust me, in our world, we are so excited we can't stand it about what we're doing. But I want you to understand something. One of the biggest reasons that this is important, besides the level of education that we can bring at no cost to you, right? All you have to do is right. Yeah. So imagine this. Imagine, because we know everyone's production, that all of a sudden Kelly says, hey, agents who are selling this amount, let's just call it, are selling 10 deals a year, went from 10 to 20 by taking these 3 classes. By the way, we looked at your Google Calendar, and the classes that you could sign up for that would do this are these dates, and these dates. Click yes if you would like to attend virtually those classes. And would you like a 30-minute notice on your phone before the classes start? Now, what I just demonstrated to you was a distributed data platform driven by artificial intelligence, right? And what was happening is it was coming down here, going up there, coming back down there, and going back there. Does that make sense? So imagine if you're running a real estate agent team and you have team members. We know all the production. We know all the people that are agents on teams and what they do production-wise. And we know what education they're taking. And all of a sudden, the artificial intelligence is now coming back and making recommendations back to your team and scheduling that. Does that make sense? Okay, that's just a cheap example. That's just a cheap example of what can happen. Now let's go a little deeper. So then you call it a CRM. We call it a CRM because we tried not to, and no one knows what we're talking about. So we just call it a CRM. But again, Command is for us is a dashboard to literally run a real estate agent business. So again, let me give you an example of this. So at the time that, and he's going to go through this thoroughly, but let me just demonstrate the power. So let's imagine again that you take a listing, and because we know over here, we know all the listings that were taken, and we know what the asking price was, and we know what the sold price was. And because we know both of that, the second you take a listing, all of a sudden, you get a notice that says, hey, for homes in that price range with blah, 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 blah features, actually, the Smart Plan number 12 is the marketing plan that is getting the best results today in the market. Would you like to execute Smart Plan 12? Now, I'm just making this up, but Smart Plan 12 happens to be a 6-week intense marketing program that immediately goes and executes down here to pick up direct mail. It immediately connects to something like MailChimp or some email provider that distributes email, right? It also has I'll stop there. But it uses this flyer, it uses this direct mailer piece, it uses these things, and all you have to do is go yes and pick your target area, and it immediately executes that. Does that make sense? Imagine you're going to fill out a contract, you have an offer that comes in, it's dumped into Command, and immediately artificial intelligence looks at that and immediately comes back and says, for homes in that price range with that repair allowance, have an 82% chance of closing. By the way, for a 95% chance or whatever, I'm making this up, you would want the repair allowance to go to X. Now imagine if you had that data and you could slide it in front of the buyer or the seller and say, here's the empirical data on what's happening around that. Does that make sense? Okay, that's just a simple little demonstration of exactly what artificial intelligence can do when the database is distributed. The depth at which that all of this can talk to each other is unreal because it's all here. Does that make sense?